Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are back reviewing two new streaming films. First being Midnight Sky, which is on Netflix, and Black Bear, which was on, what was that, Hulu? What's Black Bear on?
No, that's just on
Amazon or
on wherever you can find it.
Yeah, I don't remember where I got it. Maybe it was Amazon Prime. Yeah, probably Amazon Prime. So those are the two films we're going to be reviewing today. So we'll definitely two different types of films for sure. So we'll definitely get into that. Actually, I say let's just get right into it, man. Let's just go right into discussing these films. So the first being Midnight Sky. Bring that on in here, and I'll have you go ahead and take that one on if you don't mind.
Sure. The Midnight Sky is a new science fiction film on Netflix that's directed by George Clooney, who hasn't directed a film in quite a while. His first film he's made in a little while. It is, I think you could call it a minimalist sci-fi film, which that's not a dig. I love minimalist sci-fi personally. Like I was kind of hoping it would be kind of like his Solaris remake, which I seem to be one of the 5 people that likes his Solaris remake. I love it, but anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. But anyway, it stars George Clooney. It stars George Clooney as a what is his profession? I don't remember. It's been a couple weeks since I watched it.
He's not an astronaut, but he works with
Oh, yeah, he's like a space travel expert or something.
Yeah,
he's working in the Arctic, and there basically the premise is that there has been some sort of world extinction event, and you don't really ever find out what exactly it is, except the hint is that it's climate change based. It's it definitely has an environmental bend to it, this film, which is fine. I'm all for it. But anyway, something has happened that has basically obliterated the human population. There's almost nowhere habitable on Earth except for where he's at up in the Arctic. Meanwhile, there is the crew of a space shuttle returning to Earth, who have no idea that any of this has happened. And the movie is basically his attempts to contact them on the space shuttle before they return, to basically tell them there's nothing here. Mm-hmm. You should go back to where you came from, which is, they had just gone to survey a distant moon of a planet to see if it's habitable, basically. So he's trying to get a hold of them to let them know, don't come here, go back there, basically. But is he going to be able to contact them is the suspense of the story, as well as, the crew on the spaceship, the space shuttle, of course, run into their own problems out there too, as well, asteroid belts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, on paper, this seems like 100% my kind of movie. I've liked most of the movies George Clooney has directed, especially Good Night and Good Luck is one of my favorite films. I think I love minimalist science fiction. It is science fiction, but it's not like overblown action science fiction. It's kind of more thoughtful science fiction. Mm-hmm. It looks really pretty. It looks really great. It's got a good cast because it's also got David Oyelowo. I can't pronounce his last name. I think it's Oyelowo. And Felicity Jones is in it. It's got a good cast, good premise. It looks great. But for me, it just never got going. You know what I mean? I kept waiting for it to kind of get some sort of momentum going, and it just never really did, unfortunately. And it's just I'm all for a movie that tries to avoid generating cliched suspense or dramatic tension, but it's a movie like this will remind you that you really need at least some kind of dramatic tension to push the story along, because it looks pretty, but it didn't sustain my interest, to be honest. It did have a twist at the end that I did not guess, and that was a pretty good twist at the end, to be honest. that kind of caught me off guard. And like I said, the acting is good. It looks beautiful. The music is good, all that kind of stuff. But as a story, it just didn't move enough for me. And I'm usually the kind of person, I don't need like an A to B to C story. I have, I like movies that other people say are boring, but this movie to me was kind of boring. So sorry. How about you, Kier?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. So first of all, I actually did guess the twist. I actually saw it coming a mile away, just based on a few things. I don't want to get into why I was able to guess it. Well, not wholly guess it, because there's a two-part twist to it. I guess part of it though. But yeah, the pacing for me was a little slow. Like I said, it is a minimalist film because for the most part, like I said, other than the five members on the crew on the spaceship, and then mostly George Clooney by himself in the space station kind of thing, except for when he's on a journey as well to go to a place with a bigger broadcast signal, so he does have to travel. There's some conflict with that. There just wasn't enough there for me, and there were so many things that I don't need everything necessarily spelled out, but there's so many things that were like kind of unexplained in the film that made it a little bit of a challenge as well. Like, I don't even know what the big event that happened. I can guess, but I don't know for sure exactly what the event that even triggered everything. There was, I don't know, the pacing of it to me it wasn't as fast as I was hoping for, I guess. Is the best way to put it. I wish there was a little bit more meat on the bones to the film. And then, there were certain scenes that happened, especially with the crew on the spaceship, that just felt like so many other films that I've seen, where there's certain things that happen, and that something bad is probably going to happen to a member or a character that's on that space shuttle, because they've done it so many times in films now. I just you already know, you know what I mean? It's just like one of those things where it's so predictable. So that was the other issue that I had. It's just like, okay, kind of like the old Star Treks, where they go on a mission, and there's always like Captain Kirk, the main bones. There's always the main guys, but there's always some new guy that you never heard of that goes there, and you're like, ooh, that guy.
Red shirt.
Yeah, that guy's probably not coming back. You know what I mean? Like, so there's always that element of it, and to me, it felt like that part kind of felt like maybe like a not as good version of like. Crap, what was the other space movie that he was in? Gravity. It felt like a not as good version of Gravity. That is what I felt like, because it dealt with some of the same issues with asteroids and debris flying around and damaging the spaceship, which is in so many movies now, anyways. But the deal with space.
Yeah, which is cool, but it wasn't exciting.
No, because and I've seen that so many times now. It's just like, okay. You go to space and you're going to get hit by a bunch of debris, pretty much. You know what I mean? It's like, and kind of sense what's going to happen. So I don't know. It was like you said, the pacing was not the greatest for me, and I don't know. I didn't jive with it too much personally. So
yeah.
I know this film definitely, a lot of people I know some people that liked it. There's even been a few critics I've seen that put it in their top 10 list for the year, but it just didn't work for me. So,
yep, same here. On paper, it sounded like my kind of thing, but it just it wasn't really.
Yeah, but that's our take.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add about The Midnight Sky?
Nope.
All right. Moving on to the next film, which is Black Bear, which is a little difficult to describe. So it stars Aubrey Plaza, Christopher Abbott, and Sarah, what was her name? Gadon.
I
don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, I don't know her as well. I know. Obviously, Aubrey Plaza has been in everything, and Chris Abbott more from like Girls and what was the other film we just saw, Possessor. So he's been in a few things, so you definitely would recognize his face for sure. Basically, the best way I'm going to describe this is it's almost like two different films, basically, is the best way I'm going to put it. I'm not going to go into too much details on that. I'm just going to give you the skinny of it. So basically, Aubrey Plaza is a director / actress and she's going to like this kind of like Christopher Abbott and Sarah Gagan's character, their husband and wife, and they own like this or own through their parents like this beautiful cabin. And she's basically going to stay there, kind of like a bed and breakfast kind of place, where she's staying with them. And they get into some really deep philosophical discussions and that sort of stuff. But there's also you could tell there's a little bit of traction between Aubrey Plaza's character and Christopher Abbott's character, which is also causing some conflict as well. And that's pretty much the gist of the first story. And then there's kind of like a second story, which I don't want to go too much into, where it's pretty much centered around the same characters, but they're kind of like in different roles, is the best way to explain it. So basically, she's still kind of an actress in this one, but in this one, he's kind of more of like a film director. So and then the Sarah Gagan is also an actress, and so it's a little jarring because you're watching a film and it's going in one direction, and then it immediately kind of cuts and runs and goes to a completely different direction. So it was really kind of odd to see. Like I was expecting like the films to kind of tie in together, which it's up to your own interpretation whether they actually do or not. I think I kind of got a gist of what was going on by the end, but or a guess anyways. But you're still left kind of with more questions than answers, I feel like, for this film. I can't say I was bored. I was definitely interested, especially in the first half. The second half, I was a little less interested, maybe because I couldn't really figure out what the tie-in between the two stories were. But the first half of the story, I was really interested. I was really invested. It kind of reminded me a little bit of The Rental in the first half of the story.
Yeah.
They're in this house, and there's obviously some chemistry going on between the two of them, and then obviously the wife just kind of knows something, seems like something kind of rotten in Denmark, and so there is that. So it kind of reminded me of The Rental in that one. And like, I don't know, the way the film was shot, it almost felt like it was going to be like kind of like a horror story, because some of the music and the dark scenes, and there's like scenes where like people are going out in the woods by themselves. So I kind of almost expected something to happen, but it really never does. So it's a hard film to describe as one that you kind of just have to see for yourself. I thought it was okay. I probably liked it a little bit more than The Midnight Sky, but I can't say that I necessarily loved it just because like I said, I liked the first half a lot better than the second half, just in my opinion. And I kind of wish that, they had went more in depth into that first half of the story over the second half, is just what I thought. So I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't necessarily love it though either. Just my take. What was your thought, Jason?
Yeah, so more along the same lines. Kind of, it's both of these movies seem like on paper they're exactly my kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I love, minimalist science fiction. I love like really experimental, weird stuff. Which I didn't know anything about Black Bear honestly before I started it.
Neither did I.
The reviews, it was getting good reviews. People were saying it's Aubrey Plaza's best role. I've always liked Aubrey Plaza. I like Christopher Abbott and Sarah Gadon and everything. Gadon, I never know how to say her name, but I've liked her in everything I've seen her in. So I was like, cool, let's do it. And so I had no idea about the switch up halfway through. I don't know if that qualifies as a spoiler at all, but I mean, it's in half of the reviews that I read afterwards. It actually.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a spoiler necessarily, but there is a switch, and I don't really know how you can describe the film without referencing that the film does take a dramatic switch to a different film. There's not really a way you can describe it without doing it, I feel like. So
yeah. And I'm not against movies doing that, but I didn't know it was going to happen, and I think like you, I was like really invested in that first story, and then for the switch of gears in the middle, maybe it was just because it was so jarring that like you, I much preferred the first story to the second one. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was just because it was so jarring. I don't know. Because I mean, there were, the second part is more comedic. I definitely did laugh, in the second part. But I just kind of, I felt like I was being jerked around a little bit. Like, and
like I said, and that's why I said. Yeah, and that's why I said I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but there's not really a way to describe why I had issues with the film without referencing the second half. You know what I mean? I have to be able to, there's not a way to describe it without doing that. So, But yeah, I just felt like the second story was, I don't say I was bored, but I wasn't as invested. And because for the first few minutes of the second story, I was completely confused as to what was even going on. You know what I mean? And I was confused pretty much all the way through. And even after it ended, I was still not 100% sure that it was what I thought it was. So, so I don't want to go into that, but that would be a spoiler in itself. But yeah, it was really. It was a strange film for sure. Definitely, kind of experimental, but it almost felt like a letdown because they never really kind of completely, in my opinion, wrapped up that first story. So I was still like, okay, what's going on? Versus, I felt like you got a little bit more closure in the second story than you did in the first one, in my opinion. I don't know. So
they don't really wrap up either one, to be honest.
No, honestly, they don't wrap up either one. But I guess I cared more about the first one to figure out what was going to happen there, and they never really went back to that. And I kind of always had hoped that they were going to maybe at some point go back to that. And then I looked at the runtime, and I was like, I don't think they're going back to that other story at all. I guess you just left ambiguous what happens next. So. So I don't know, just my take on those two films. So
it was. I mean, the acting was all good.
Yeah.
I'm all for adventurous and experimental storytelling. I think I see what it was doing at the end. I think I have a theory that I think I know what was happening, and that's fine. I see what they were going for. It just didn't make it as enjoyable for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Yeah. Whether you get exactly what was going on or not, it still doesn't make for. I don't know, in my opinion, as interesting of a film, especially when they kind of leave you hanging in both stories, I guess. So, that kind of made a little, me less interested in even if I got it and I understood exactly what was going on, it just makes it a little less interesting. There's one thing to say, oh, I understand what's going on, but I don't necessarily have to like or agree with it. You know what I mean? So,
right. Yeah.
So, because I know there's always a case, well, you just didn't get it. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, I think I got it, but I just, I don't have to necessarily agree with it. It's just like there's movies that have twists, and sometimes you get the twist. Well, like The Midnight Sky has a little bit of twist, and I got half of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to love the story, I guess, if you will. So.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Well. Sounds like we weren't. Sounds like we were mostly in agreement, but we didn't necessarily love either one of those films.
Yeah, so. I probably still rated them higher than you, though. Probably.
Yeah, you probably still gave them 4.5 out of 5 for both of them.
Whatever. No.
Well, we'll find out here shortly. Let's start with The Midnight Sky. Overall grade and face you would give that film.
I would give that a 2.5 out of 5. So for me, that's just a straight C. So average. So that's this face. Nothing special. Yeah.
Cool. I'm actually leaning towards the exact same grade in this case. I'm actually going to go with a 2.5 out of 5 on this one too. So I'll also be giving it this face, which is just a straight face. So we're definitely in agreement on that one. And then with a Black Bear, overall grade and face you would give that one.
Black Bear was a little bit better for me, so that I give that a 3 out of 5. So it's about the B minus C plus range. The day I watched it, I would have said C plus, but in hindsight, I've come to appreciate what it was going for a little bit more. So I'd say it's still 3 out of 5, but maybe I'm leaning toward the B minus instead of the C plus. So for me, that face would be like I'm confused, but mildly intrigued.
Definitely. Yeah, man, it looks like we're right on the money today, man. I'm going to give it the exact same grade for you as you did, so I'm actually going to give that one a 3 out of 5 also. Sounds like I maybe enjoyed it just a little bit more. I was really, really invested in that first story. I thought it was really interesting. Like you already know, I like The Rental a lot. I really enjoyed that film, but I think that's actually probably going to make my top 10 list for this year. And this one, at the beginning, really reminded me of that, and I like that conflict. I always love films that have, not just the seediness part of it, but I like the discussions that they have in those films when it's just a couple people in a room. They have these really, really good discussions and this nature, and they really get into different things in society and things of that nature. I like that good dialogue, and the first story had a lot of that, and I really enjoyed that. So I was really, really invested in it. The film easily could have been 3.5, 4-star film if it had kept down that road, and then it got knocked down to 3 because the second story, not that it's a bad story, I just wasn't as invested as the first story. So I went with about a 5 on that one, and so I'm going to give it this face, which is a slight smile. So so not quite the straight face, just a smile. Definitely no teeth for it, but it's a. Maybe they'll do a sequel and they'll finish off that first story if the second story. So
probably not.
But probably not. But no, definitely so 2 films that we didn't necessarily love, but didn't really hate either one of them either. Just they weren't they weren't as good as I guess the reviews that they were getting, in my opinion. So
yeah, well, the Midnight Sky is getting pretty mixed reviews, honestly.
Yeah, I have seen. There was a couple movie critics I've seen that actually included in their top 10 list for the year. So there are some people that did like it, but I guess it just depends. So
yeah,
but cool. Well, let us know. Let us know down in the comments. Have you seen either film? Did you see both films? What are your thoughts? Be sure to let us know down in the comments. As always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of our updates. And we'll be back again shortly with a new show for you guys as well. We thank you for watching and hope you have a great day. Bye.